The message came at 2:14 a.m. They don't even ask about you anymore. They want to change their last name. No greeting, no explanation. Just that. The glow of the screen lit the bedroom wall in sickly blue. I didn't move for a full minute, not because I was shocked. Shock had stopped visiting months ago, but because I was cataloging the weight of those words, sorting them like evidence. It had been 6 months since I'd seen my kids. 6 months since a judge's temporary order gave her the leverage she wanted. The reasons? Fabricated. The narrative? Controlled. And now this. I didn't respond. I never responded in the moment. She fed on reactions, so I starved her. I placed the phone face down, closed my eyes, and let the darkness settle. But something in that message was different. Not the cruelty. I'd grown used to that. But the certainty. It wasn't a threat. It was a statement. Final. Like she already believed it was over. That meant she was sure of her position, which meant she'd gotten careless. 2 weeks later, the court date was set. Custody hearing. Final ruling. The first time I lost access to my kids, it was under the guise of their emotional well-being. She cried on the stand, told stories with surgical precision. Stories I couldn't disprove, at the time. But lies have a half-life. They degrade if you let them sit long enough. I'd heard whispers, a slip from one of her friends in the grocery store, an overheard comment from my son during a rare phone call, hints of someone else in the house, someone who wasn't me. Still, I didn't accuse, I didn't confront. I let her believe I was too beaten to fight. But I was listening, watching, filing away details. The background noise in her calls that didn't belong. My daughter mentioning he bought her shoes. The sudden appearance of expensive things she couldn't afford. The picture was forming. I just needed the frame. The key came from an unexpected source, my 10-year-old son. He wasn't allowed to talk to me without her in the room, but kids slip up. He mentioned the lake house. I didn't own a lake house, neither did she, officially. I began digging, quietly. Property records, social media footprints, friends of friends who liked the wrong posts. I found him, her business partner, married, 2 kids of his own. Phone records placed him at her address almost every night for the past 3 months. But phone logs weren't enough. Courts like spectacle, proof with teeth. That's when my son called again. This time, she wasn't in the room. His voice was low, urgent. "Dad, Mom and him made a video. They were laughing about court. I can show it." I froze. My son didn't understand what that meant, but I did. If the video was what I suspected, it wasn't just infidelity, it was mockery, evidence of intent. I told him to do nothing, not to talk about it, just wait. I had 6 days until court, 6 days for her arrogance to work in my favor. The night before the hearing, my attorney handed me a USB drive. "It's from the boy," he said. "We checked it. You'll want to see it." I waited until I was home, alone. The video opened with her voice, laughing, drunk laughter. She was in the kitchen, glass of wine in hand, sitting on the counter. The man was next to her, his hands on her legs. She looked into the camera, looked into it, and said, "He thinks the kids miss him. I told them to call him by his first name now. Soon they'll forget he exists." The man laughed, kissed her. She added, "Once the judge hears what I have planned, he's done, completely." I closed the laptop, sat there. No rage, just a strange, cold clarity. She had built the perfect stage for herself, and tomorrow I'd let her stand on it. Courtrooms smell like old wood and quiet desperation. She was already there when I walked in, dressed in pale blue, hair pulled back, playing the picture of a devoted mother. The hearing began as expected, her attorney reciting the litany of my alleged failings. I didn't look at her, didn't react. Then the judge asked if the children had anything to say. My son stood. Small, nervous, but steady. "Your Honor," he said, "I'd like to play a video from Mom's phone." Her head snapped toward him. The color drained from her face. The bailiff set up the screen. The video played. Silence. Her laughter filled the room. Her words, calculated, cruel, hung in the stale air like smoke. When it ended, she tried to speak, but the judge's hand went up. "Mrs. Carter," he said, voice like steel, "we'll take a short recess before I make my ruling." I didn't look at her, but I saw her reflection in the polished table. She wasn't crying, yet, just frozen, like she'd been caught in a spotlight she couldn't escape. The ruling came quickly. Joint custody. Immediate visitation rights restored. Her attorney whispered to her, but she didn't move. The room emptied, and still she sat there. I walked past her. No words, no satisfaction on my face. Outside, the air was cold, sharp. My kids were waiting, their eyes wide, unsure if they should run to me. They did. And in that moment, I knew she'd never forgive me. Not for winning, but for letting her destroy herself without my hand ever touching the blade. Some people call that justice. I call it inevitability. I buckled my son into the car seat, glanced once at the courthouse door behind us, and drove away, leaving her there, with her silence, and her last name. If you want, I can also create an even darker, slower burn extended version of this story that digs deeper into the protagonist's mental chess game and shows more psychological warfare before the reveal. It would feel like a noir thriller on paper. Would you like me to do that?